Hi guys, welcome today to Vinyasa Class 2, the second of your 2 free videos of Vinyasa. Okay, so we're going to start laying down on the mat. So bring the feet towards the front of the mat, the shoulders to the back of the mat, and just bring those heads down. Take a turn of the head in one direction, take it back through centre, and take it over to the other side. Give those hips a little rock from side to side. Maybe just lift those tailbones away from the mat, tuck them down towards the floor, and then bring them back down and give those hips a little rock again. Bring those hips then to stillness. Just allow the whole body to be relaxed down towards the mat. Maybe turn those palms up towards the ceiling, let those fingers gently curl. And just take a moment here just to scan that body from the top of the head down to the fingertips, down to the toe tips. Just having a check-in with how your physical body feels. Noticing any tight muscles. Noticing any injuries. Being aware of the tightness from the top of the head down to the toes sometimes. Maybe that whole body feels tighter because you're doing this practice in the morning. Maybe it feels a little more freer because you're doing it later on in the day. Just wherever your body's at this time of day. When you've taken that mental scan of the body, start to think about the energetic body. That breath. How's that breath feel? Are you breathing deeply or are you breathing quite high up in that chest? However the breath is coming right now, don't try to judge it, just noticing. But if you can, try and take those breaths a little deeper. Take a long breath in through the nose, long sigh out through the mouth. Maybe do a couple of breaths like this, blowing that belly up like a balloon on the inhale and allowing that belly to draw back towards the spine and slightly lift up towards that rib cage as you breathe out. Abdominal contraction as you breathe that breath out. Expansion through the ribs, stretching through those intercostal muscles to let those lungs have space to expand. And then let everything soften again as you breathe out. Slowly bring one leg in towards the chest at a time. Then take a hold of those knees, interlace the fingers, squeeze those knees in towards the chest. Try and keep those sit bones pushing down towards the mat. Try and plug those shoulders in towards the floor to create a little space across the chest. Try not to have that chin tucked under. Maybe lift it slightly and push that lower spine into the mat. Take a hold of the creases of the knees. Rock up and down that spine a couple of times. Just massaging all those muscles at the side of that spine. And the next time you come to seated, hold it in seated position. So we're going to find a balancing point in between the sit bones and the lower spine. So keeping a hold of the creases of those knees, find that space in between the sit bones and the lower spine, lift up the chest when you found it, roll the shoulders back. Then come up onto the toes. Then one at a time, lifting one foot to knee height and the other foot to knee height, bringing ourselves into a half bow. And then from here, if you wish, you can release both hands. Bring them to shoulder height. All the time finding that balancing point in between those sit bones and the spine. If you're coming with me, you lift up the right hand and you lift up the left hand to join the right and you lift that chest a little higher. Breathing long breaths. Try not to hold the breath. The breath is your friend in yoga. If you want to take it a little further, you straighten that right leg, you straighten the left, and you still feel that chest lifting. Holding it here just for a couple of breaths. And then release the hands to the creases of the knees, release the feet back down, and just rock up and down that spine a couple of times. The next time you come to seated, make your way into a tabletop position, either tucking the feet under and stepping them back, or bringing those legs around, finding this tabletop space. Knees under the hips, tops of the feet flat. We're going to take some moving cat-cows and lateral flexions and rotations. Your breath in lifts up the head, lifts up the bum, drops the belly. And your breath out, we fold everything back in, the chin comes to the chest. Bring the big toes together, the sit bones to the heels, foreheads towards the floor. Your breath in comes back up to a tabletop position and we separate the toes. Breathe in, raise the right hand to the ceiling, gaze up to the thumb. Breathe out, thread the right hand in between the left, just bringing the ear to hover off the mat. Push back into that left hand and raise that right hand back up to the ceiling. Bring that right hand down to meet the left. Put the weight into the right hand, raise the left hand on the inhale. Thread the left hand in between the right hand and the right knee on the exhale. Hover off the mat. Push into that right hand again, lift that left hand back up to the ceiling. Bring it back down to meet the left. Walk the hands over to the right side of the mat and take a gaze around towards that right foot. Lateral flexion through the spine, having just done rotation. Bring those hands back through centre and take those hands over to the left side of the mat and take a gaze towards that left foot. Lateral flexion to the left. Bring those hands back to the centre. Hands underneath the shoulders. Take a breath in, lift up the head, lift up the bum, drop the belly. And take a breath out, tuck everything in, chin to chest, tailbone tucks, flexion and extension of the spine. Bring the big toes together, sit bones to the heels, foreheads to the mat. Next breath in, come back up onto the hands and knees, separate the toes. Weight into the left hand, raise the right hand, rotate to the right. And then thread that right hand in between the left right ear to the mat. Raise again that right hand back up to the ceiling. Rotate that waist to the right. Then bring that right hand down. Put the weight into the right hand. Your next breath in raises the left hand. Rotate to the left. Then thread that left hand in between the right hand and the right knee, left ear to the mat. Then push into that right hand. Raise that left hand back up to the ceiling. So we're taking that rotation through the spine. Bring that left hand down and then take the hands over to the right side. Gaze back towards that right foot, that lateral flexion of the spine. Walk the hands back through centre and take them over to the opposite side and twist through that waist. Bring that body back through centre. Bring it back, heel of the hands underneath the shoulders. And then stepping both feet back to the back of the mat into a plank position. Start to paddle those feet as we start to lift up those hips. Starting to drop one heel down towards the mat at the time. So we're using the body, the movement through in and out of flexion and extension to help with those hamstrings to soften them off. Nod and shake the head, release any tension in the neck. Then if you're happy to bring those heels to stillness, encourage them back towards the floor. If you need to softly bend the knees to help with the lower back, slowly bend those knees. Push those chests back, roll the shoulders back towards the hips. Take a nice long deep breath in and a long breath out. And then we'll take those three options of vinyasa. If you know what you're doing, take your own choice of vinyasa now. Come forward to plank on the inhale. This is option one. Release the knees, turn the creases of the elbows forward, release down to the floor and under the toes. Push into the hands, a little baby cobra, roll those shoulders back. Release the chest down, tuck under those toes, bring those chests back towards those thighs, foreheads to the mat. Push into the hands and feet, lift the hips, either paddle the feet or go straight to squeezing those heels back. So that's option one. If you want to freeze it in that option, stick with that option. If you're coming with me, option two, come forward to plank on the inhale. Turn the creases of the elbows, bring the elbows to graze the ribs as you release the whole body down in one long line. Untuck the toes, push into the hands, maybe come a little higher with those shoulders. Then release those bodies down, tuck under those toes, bring those chests back towards those thighs. Then push into those hands and feet as you lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back, or paddle if you wish. So you have two options there, one or two. If you come in with me, option 3, we go through chaturanga where we hover. Come forward to plank on the inhale and release down to the floor, but just hovering off the mat, elbows in line towards the body. Roll over the toes, lift up the chest, and then make your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back with straight legs, using that core center to lift that body. Or you take those chests back to thighs like we've done in option 1. So we're going to do another vinyasa of your choice. I'm sticking with option 1, you coming forward to plank. You release to the floor, either dropping the knees. Remember to turn the creases of the elbows forward as you release down to the floor. Untuck the toes, push into the hands, lift the chest either high or low. Then release back down, tuck under the toes, or roll straight over those toes with straight legs back to down dog. Have a little paddle of the feet here. A little movement through those hips. A little nod and shake of those heads. So the first 2 poses we're going to entertain are Warrior 2 and Reverse Warrior. So stabilise the feet and the hands, find that good A-shaped downward facing dog position, feet hip width apart, hands shoulder width apart. Your next breath in, we raise up with that right leg. We're going to bend the knee, bring the foot to the bum, then turn the hips to the right, pushing the right foot to the left. Bring that knee into the chest, hover the shoulders over the heel of the hands and hold. Then raise that leg again back up towards the ceiling. Take a bend into the knee, the turn of the hips, shoulders stay neutral to the front edge of the mat. Then bring that knee to the chest, gaze in between the hands as you step that foot through. Drop down with that back heel, reach forward with the left hand as you raise up to your Warrior 2 position, windmilling the hands around. So sink into that right knee, turn that right knee out to the side. Try not to grip with the toes of that right foot. If the arms start to feel fatigued, just bring them back to the hips or reach out, right hand forward, left hand back. Turn the palms, let the shoulders relax. Turn the palms back, leaving the shoulders where they are. And think about where your spine is in between the feet. Try and think of the crown of the head in one long line. And it sits in between the distance, right in the middle of those feet. So we're taking it to Reverse Warrior. We keep that front knee bent. We reverse the palm of the right, reach forward. Raise it to the ceiling, gaze up towards that hand. This left hand can trail or find a bind onto that right thigh. Make sure you sink low in those hips. Probably trying to get this leg as parallel towards the floor as you can. Relax that right shoulder. Breathe into that right rib cage. And your next breath out, we windmill the hands down either side of the right foot. Step back to a plank, hold it in plank for a breath. Then release down to the floor, your choice. I'm coming with straight bodies, option 2. Untucking the toes, push into the hands, lifting the chest. And release back down, tuck under those toes, bring the chest back towards those thighs. Push into the hands and feet, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Remember, if you know where you're going with your vinyasas, feel free to do your own choice. These are just options to take. But remember, you can also take breaks in the vinyasas as well. So if you feel thirsty, they're a good time to stop and rehydrate. Your next breath in, we're going to raise up that left leg. Bend the knee, then stack the hips, left hips towards the left side of the room. Shoulders neutral. Realign the hips, bring the knee in towards the chest. Hover the shoulders over the heel of the hands and hold. Then raise that leg again back up towards the ceiling. Bend the knee, stack up the hips. Realign the hips, bring that left knee into the chest. And then step that left foot through. If it gets stuck here, help it through with that left hand. Then drop down that back heel inwardly. Reach forward with the right hand, lift up and over. So I'm giving you the back show of the body. so you get front and back views of where I'm sitting. So that left knee is bent, we're pushing into the outside of the back foot, the whole of the front foot. Just turn those palms, let those shoulders relax. Turn the palms back, leaving the shoulders where they are. Try and feel like someone's stretching you to the front and back of the mat. That left leg trying to become parallel to the floor. Remember, release the hands if your arms are getting tired. Long breaths. Make sure that spine is stuck in the middle of those feet rather than leaning forward. Your next breath in, turn the left palm, reach forward and lift. Remember that left hand can be down the back of this left leg, or we find the bind behind the back of the body onto that left thigh. Try not to come up in that left knee. Try and stay nice and low. And breathe that breath into the left side rib cage. We're taking some lateral flexion through that waist. And we're also taking a little bit of a back bend. Maybe gaze to that left hand as a point to focus on, but try and relax that left shoulder down. Your next breath out, we windmill the hands down either side of that left foot. We step back to plank and we do a vinyasa of your choice. I'm taking option 3, so chaturanga, elbows in line with the body. Roll over the toes, lift up the chest, keep those thighs away. And then taking it back to down dog, either chest to thighs, or rolling straight over those toes, lifting those hips, giving that head a nod and a shake. So we're going into fallen triangle now. And then we're going to take it to side plank, the next 2 poses that we're working with. So listen to the cues. Your next breath in, we raise up with that right leg. We bring the knee towards that left elbow. And then we send that right foot out to the side of the mat. So you can either stay here with the hands both grounded, or lift that left hand towards the ceiling, gazing up towards that left thumb. Drop that back heel. And then if you wish to raise that right leg away from the floor to help with strengthening the inside of those thighs. Then bring that left hand back down, raise that right leg up to the ceiling, come forward to plank, and then come onto your left side. So you may drop down that left knee and roll over onto the left and lift the right hand. And then raise that right leg from here. But if you wish to go with straight legs and lift that right leg in this position, putting the whole weight onto that left wrist. Trying to protect it if you can, not having it too far under the body. And then release that right foot down, bring the right hand down, full plank. Finish off a vinyasa of your choice. I'm taking option 1 again, dropping the knees. Bring the elbows to graze the ribs. Breath in, lifts the chest. Breath out, release back down, tuck under the toes, bring the chest back to the thighs. Push into those hands and feet, lift up the hips, squeeze those heels back. Have a little nod and a shake of those heads. Maybe a paddle through those feet. Your next breath in, we raise up with the left leg, keep it nice and straight. Your next breath out, bend the knee, bring the left knee to the right elbow. Then send the left foot out to the side, the right side of the mat. Either keep the hands grounded or drop the back heel, bring on weight onto the left hand, raise the right hand. If you want to strengthen those thighs, raise that left leg. Not accessible to everybody, but try if you wish. Then bring that right hand down, lift that left leg up towards the ceiling. Bring it back down to meet the right. Come forward to a plank and then take it to side plank. Again, you could drop the knee, turning that right foot out, lifting the left hand, lifting the left leg. But if you wish to challenge in the full plank, both legs in line, and we lift that left leg away from the right foot. Keep pushing the hips forward, drawing the belly back. One more breath here. Then release the feet, release the hands, plank position, and then take it through a vinyasa of your choice. I'm option 2, coming down to the floor. Rolling through and up and lifting the chest. Release back down, tuck under the toes, bring the chest back to the thighs. Push into the hands and feet, lift up the hips, squeeze those heels back. Have a little nod in shape of the head. Have a little paddle and a movement through those hips. Coming down onto the hands and knees, widen the knees, bring the sit bones to the heels. Walk the hands forward, bring the chest down. Take a couple of restorative breaths here before we take on the next few poses of the class. Your bodies are probably starting to feel a little warm now. Those joints are probably starting to feel a little more lubricated, especially if you're doing the practice in the morning. Quite often that fascia tissue gets a little sticky when we first wake up, and it takes a while to get that tissue moving nice and smoothly and not being like Velcro and sticking to each other. That connective tissue goes from the top of the head all the way down to the tip of the toes and fingers, covering the whole of those muscles. Next breath in, walk the hands over to the right side, left hand on top of the right, nudge the left hip back. Take a breath here. Then walk the hands back through centre, take them over to the left side, right hand on top of the left, nudge the right hip back and sink here for a breath. Next breath in, come back to that middle space and let that chest sink down towards the floor. Then making your way back into downward facing dog, bringing the heel of the hands under the shoulders, stepping both feet back, lifting the hips, maybe paddling the feet, as you come back to your downward facing dog position. So you may want to use a block or a book here when I take this next stage. If you haven't got a block, then I'll give you an option to come elbow to knee. Your next breath in, we raise up with that right leg. And we bring that right knee to the right elbow and squeeze. Raise that right leg. Bring that right knee into the chest and step that right foot through. So if you've got a block or a book, bring it to the inside of that right foot. Place the right hand on the inside of that right foot and drop that left heel. Left hand comes onto the shoulder and we turn the shoulders out. If you haven't got a block and you wish to come onto that forearm and right knee, feel free to come to that space. Then raise that hand up to the ceiling and then let that left hand come forward towards me at the front of the room. So we're trying to tuck that right bum cheek under and turn the left hip out. Squeezing that right knee into that left arm, but the left arm resists and pushes it back. Pushing into the outside of the back foot. Full openness through to the left side of the room. Your next breath in, we're going to bring ourselves all the way up, transitioning, straightening that front leg, reaching the right hand up and back to reverse the triangle. And then bringing the shoulders back over the hips, right hand comes down, either onto that block if you wish, or onto the inside of that right thigh, right calf. Then gaze up towards that left hand. Again, try and keep that right bum cheek tucked under and the left hip turned out. Right shoulder scoops under, left shoulder comes back. Try not to hyperextend this knee of the straight front leg. If you're locking out, it almost goes into a backward bow. Switch on the muscles, micro bend the knee, engage those thighs. Your next breath in, bring those shoulders back over those hips. Take a bend back into that front knee. Windmill the hands down, either side of that front foot. Remove any blocks or books. Step that right foot back to a plank. Take a vinyasa option of your choice. I'm with chaturanga, so we're releasing to hovering off the mat. Roll over the toes, lift up the chest, squeeze the shoulder blades back. Then make your way back to down dog, lifting those hips, either paddling or squeezing the heels back, whichever seems to work for the back of those bodies for you. Take a nice long deep breath in, long breath out. Your next breath in, we raise up with that left leg. Then we bend the knee and bring that left knee to that left elbow. Raise that leg back up towards the ceiling. Then bring that knee to the chest. Gaze in between the hands, step that left foot through. Drop the back heel, find the block or a book if you wish. Or if you want to bring that forearm onto the top of that left thigh, whichever works for you. Bring the right hand to the right shoulder. Turn the shoulder first. Once you've found space with the shoulder, raise the hand towards the ceiling. Push into the outside, the back foot, whole of the front foot. And then reach forward with that right hand so you get that full stretch down that right side. Left bum cheek tucks under, right hip turns out. Right shoulder scoops back, left shoulder scoops under. So we've got that openness now to the right side of the room. Left knee's pushing into the left arm. Arm resists and pushes it back. Activates those legs. Then bring those shoulders all the way up and over, straightening through that front leg. Bringing the right hand down the back of the right leg and the left hand up to the ceiling. Breathe into the space on those left ribs. Then bring those shoulders back over the hips, arms shoulder height, reach forward with the left hand. Bringing that left hand down to either the block or the inside of that left calf. That gaze can go back up towards the ceiling, tuck that bum under. Almost feel like you're pushing the hips to the right side and the shoulders to the left side of the mat. Think about this knee. Are you locking out? I have a tendency of doing it myself because I have hyperextensive joints. Give a little micro bend, strengthen those thighs. Hold it here just for another breath. Then lifting those shoulders back over those hips. Take a bend back into that front knee. Windmill the hands down, either side of that left foot. Step that left foot back to plank, removing the block or books. And vinyasa of your choice. I'm back to option 1. Bring those elbows in. Remember, you don't have to alternate the options. You just go with what works for you. Breath in, lifts the chest. Then we all make our way back to down dog, either chest to thighs or rolling straight over those toes, lifting the hips. Squeezing the heels back or paddle. Depends how still you want to be in this A-shaped position. So walking the feet in towards the centre of the mat. Bring the hands back towards the feet. Have the feet hip width apart. Take a bend into the knees as though you're bringing those seats nice and low into that imaginary chair. Feather-like touching the toes. Raise the arms to the ears. Keep the chest on the thighs for a moment. And then lift that chest away. Keeping the hips low. Tuck the bum down. Draw the belly back and squeeze those ribs and hips towards each other. If the arms aren't happy to be up long, bring them to the chest, palm position. Or just stay here with me just for another couple of breaths. Sink low, weight in the heels. Relax the shoulders back. Then bring the hands to the chest if the arms are out long. Left elbow comes to the right knee and we use that elbow to hook, or we use the left hand to hook the right knee, whichever works better for you and your range of movement. Gaze towards the right side. Left shoulder tucks under, right shoulder brings back. Check that left knee isn't popping forward. If it is, the pelvis has come out of line, so draw it back, keep the hips low. And then release that chest to the thighs and hang over those legs. Give that head a nod. Maybe paddle the feet, maybe bend the knees as much as you need to, or going out of flexion and extension. Depending on how tight those hamstrings are still feeling, is what you need to do. And then bring those legs to stillness, bring the sit bones back low, bring the arms back up to ear height, bring the chest away from the thighs, tuck that tailbone down, draw the belly back, hold it here for a couple of breaths. Then bring those hands again to the chest. This time the right elbow to the left knee. Use that body, use that waist to twist. Remember that right hand and the left hand on the back of the spine. Check that right knee isn't coming forward. Draw it back, keep the hips low. One more breath here. And then release to fold over those legs. Have a nod and shake of the head. Your next breath in, come up to a half lift, place the hands on the shins. And your breath out, fold back over those legs, keeping them as straight as they can be, bringing those hands to wherever they reach. Maybe if you're using a block, you can place those hands on a block. So we're going to work next on a little balance. Bend the knees, start to curl up through that spine. One vertebrae at a time, keeping the arms long. Bringing those shoulders over the hips. Squeeze the shoulders back. And then find your space at the front of the mat. I'm turning to the long edge just so you've got a view of me. And we're going to do tree, so I'll be mirror imaging on the camera. So you're going to bring the weight into your right foot. Lift the toes of that right foot and bring them down one by one. Bring the hands to the hips, take a bend into your left knee and turn that knee out to the side. So it might be that you stay here with the toes slightly touching on that left foot, or you bring that left foot into the calf, or you bring that left foot above that right knee and into that thigh. But try not to put the pressure on the knee joint. Once you've found a place for the legs, bring the hands to the chest. Find a focal point in front of you, something that's not moving. Trying to encourage that left knee out, tucking the bum under, growing through the waist. So you can stay here with hands together or raise those hands up towards the ceiling. Release the hands, open through those palms. Hold it here for a breath. Then bring those hands in front of you. Taking your left arm under the right, bring the back of the hands together or find a double bind, bringing the palms together and then lift those elbows up. Again, standing nice and strong on that right foot. And then release that bind. Bring the hands behind you. Interlace the fingers at the bum. Push the hands down towards the floor. Widen through the collarbones and the chest. Holding, breathing deeply. Staying focused on something that's just in front of you. Release those hands. Bring the hands back to the hips. Release down with that left leg and take a paddle through those feet. So we're going to take that on the opposite side. So this time you're putting the weight into your left foot. So lift left toes up, bring them down, ground that foot nice and strong into the mat. Then bring yourself up onto the toes of the right foot. Turn that knee out. Remember, you can stay here if the challenge balance is too much. Or you can bring that right foot to the inside of that calf, not on the knee. You have to then bring it higher. If you're going higher than the calf, you push that right foot into the left thigh and the left thigh into that right foot. Find that stability here. Squeeze the glute on that left side to hold the balance. Then bring the hands to the chest. Keep that focal point. You may find one side feels a little more wobbly than the other. We have a stiff side and a weak side. So don't be too concerned if you don't hold the balance any better on the other side. Then raise those hands if you're coming to me, or keep them in prayer position. Lift them up towards the ceiling. Then open those hands out wide. Hold it there for a breath. Then bring those hands down and in front of you. This time the right elbow hooks under. We find the back of the hands or the palms. Lifting those elbows slightly. And then release those hands, bring them back behind you. Take an interlace of the fingers. Push those hands down towards the floor, open through the collarbones and the chest. Nice and wide through that front side of the body. Long breaths. In and out through the nose if you can. Noticing how those muscles on that left standing leg are working hard to hold this balance. That right knee is really squeezing out to the side, using the glutes on that right side to open through that hip. One more breath here. Then release the hands, release the feet, take a paddle of the feet. And then making your way into Malasana, which is our yogic squat. So just have the toes out to the sides of the mat, bring the palms together at the chest. And then slowly bending the knees, tracking towards the toes. And bringing those hips down towards that floor. This is where you can use a block if you wish. As you come to the mat, you can bring that block into its first height here and bring the elbows into the knees. Or you can take it onto its second lowest height, or even into its lowest space. The lowest space tends to be where you could probably take yourself anyway without the support. But keeping those knees opened up with those elbows, trying to tuck those tailbones under, lifting through the chest, rolling the shoulders back. Maybe close the eyes here for a couple of breaths. And just notice how those hips are feeling. Notice whether one side feels tighter than the other. As again, we're never mirror image. Quite often we're different from one side to the other side. Another couple of breaths here, taking them long and deep into that belly, letting that belly blow up like a balloon. And then as you breathe out, squeezing that belly back. And then bringing those hands to the floor, bring those feet towards the front of your mat. Take a little paddle of those legs, remove the flesh from under the sit bones, bring the arms to shoulder height, and then slowly release that body back down to the floor. Control it as it gets to that space where you tend to want to collapse. And then as those shoulders release to the floor, allow a bend into both knees, bringing the feet in towards the bum. Bring the hands onto the hips, the elbows away from the floor. And then we're going to push into the feet and just raise our hips so we just get a long line. So I'm not looking for you to go into extension here. I'd rather just keep it a nice flat line all the way from the shoulders to the knees. Elbows stay away unless you don't feel very stable, then use them as a stabiliser. But try it first without. So squeezing the bums, put the weight into that left foot. Keep the gaze to the ceiling, raise that right leg out so that right knee stays the same height as the left, but we straighten that leg. Try not to drop the bum here, try not to rotate with the waist, try and keep it stable. Then release that right foot back down, back where it came from. Then push into that right foot, weight into that right side. This time lift that left leg. Left knee is height of the right knee. Try and keep those hips nice and long. Bring that left foot back down. Stabilise again through both feet. And then take the weight back into your left foot. And send that right leg out long. Knee stays at left knee height. Release that right foot back down. Push the weight into the right foot and send that left leg out long. Left knee stays to knee height. One more breath here. Release that left foot back down. Bring those bums back down to the mat. Bring those knees in towards the chest. Give those knees a squeeze. Make circles with the knees on the ceiling in one direction, just to get into that lower spine. Take circles the opposite way. Massaging that sacrum area in between that pelvis. Draw the knees into the chest. Send both legs up to the ceiling, stretching the heels up, the toes back. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body. Relax through the shoulders. Relax the jaw. Take a moment here with those lower limbs a little higher than the heart, just to take that pressure off the heart for a couple of breaths. Long, deep breaths in. Long breaths out. Then release those feet to the mat. Let them come long to the edges of the mat and let the feet drop out to the sides. Let yourself have a little rock of the hips, maybe tuck the tailbone down to the end of the mat. Bring the space of that lower spine into the floor and give those hips a rock again. Take a turn of the head in one direction. Bring it back through centre. Take it over to the other side. Bring it back in through centre. Take a long deep breath in. Long breath out. Close the eyes. Let the tongue drop away from the roof of the mouth and the lips gently part. Turn the palms up, let the shoulders relax. Take this moment just to consolidate the practice that you've just done. Being mindful of how that body feels now compared to the beginning of practice. Whether it's ironed out some kinks through the body, whether it's released that connective tissue, that sticky tissue that gets really clogged up in the mornings. Morning practices are great to release all that tension from the body through sleeping. Think of everything from the waist down, relaxing. Everything from the waist up. I'm allowing you just to take as much time as you wish in this space. Whenever you're ready to come out, bring some movement into the fingers and toes first, and the ankles and the wrists. And then bring yourself maybe over to your side and then up to seated. But take your time, take however long it needs to be until you make your way back to that space. And in the meantime, have peace in your thoughts, have peace in your words, have peace in your hearts. From my heart to yours, Namaste.